I'm Dr. Christina Harris, and I am a primary care physician, and I am the Vice President and Chief Health Equity Officer at Cedars-Sinai. And this is probably one of my favorite days of the year because I love seeing all these young faces who are here to soak up everything that we are serving. And I am a true testament that programs like this matter. If you were here at the intro, you saw that the E was for exposure. I think exposure is so, so important, particularly in the field of healthcare. There are so many different careers that you can have in healthcare, and teamwork makes the dream work. As a physician, I depend on so many colleagues of mine to really achieve the outcomes we are achieving. And so we have a great panel planned for us today, and I have the pleasure of moderating this. And I am going to start by asking our panelists to introduce themselves and to tell us a little bit about what institution they work for, what are their roles and responsibility, and what does that look like on a daily basis?
Want me to get it started?
Let's do it.
All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Reggie Scott, and I am the Vice President of Sports Medicine and Performance for the LA Rams. Been there since, thank you. Appreciate it. I love it. We got some Rams fans in here. I've been with the Rams since 2010 when we were the St. Louis Rams, and we moved out here in 2016 as the LA Rams. My background, from Delaware. Anybody else from Delaware? Didn't think so.
No.
Yeah.
Does that
there we
ever
go.
work?
We got one over there.
One person?
Yeah.
You're just trying to make
There we go. It's two of us in here.
Okay, good.
All right. I'll come talk to you later. But from Delaware, went to West Virginia University, majored in athletic training, sports medicine, got my undergrad there, and then got my master's at California University of Pennsylvania, injury prevention and sports performance enhancement. Out of undergrad, I was very fortunate to get an internship with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2002 and been in the NFL ever since. From 2002, worked for the Carolina Panthers as an assistant athletic trainer from 2003 to 2009. And in 2010, I got the head job at then at that time, the St. Louis Rams. My roles and responsibilities, what do I do every single day? My job is to make sure we keep these guys on the field. They like to tend to break things and pop things and hit each other very hard. So what I do is I oversee everything medical. So from the sports medicine perspective, overseeing their physical therapy care, making sure they're getting back on the field, the performance, the return to play, in consultation with the doctors. I work with oversee the strength and conditioning department to make sure obviously we're enhancing our optimization there. Nutrition and sports science, and obviously they're playing fair. So I oversee pretty much, if you think of football, Coach McVay, he does everything to get these guys ready to play day in and day out on Sunday. I make sure that these guys are optimizing their readiness week in and week out on Sundays. I've been doing it for 25 years. I love it, and it's pretty cool to sit on Sundays and sit there and watch these guys play football. How did I get into this? And I'll move on from there is, play sports growing up, love sports, always had a passion for sports and always had a passion for medicine and caregiving. Put the two together is pretty simple. Athletic training, here you go. Got exposed to that when I was playing sports and obviously got injured. I had experience with an athletic trainer. I never forgot when that person did for me. I want to do that for somebody one day. And so that was kind of how I got into it. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm sure the questions will go from there, and I'll pass it on.
Thank everyone for being here, and thank you guys for inviting me. My name is Dr. Chukwumerije, Merije Chukwumerije. I'm a cardiologist, general cardiologist at Cedars-Sinai, who also specializes in sports cardiology. So my general practice consists of treating patients, diagnosing patients, and trying to optimize patients' cardiovascular health. But my main interest is within sports. So I specialize in caring for athletes, not only those who have underlying heart conditions, but those who may not know that they have underlying heart conditions. So screening, especially for a lot of the sports teams, is one of the most integral things that I do. I currently work with am the team cardiologist for the LA Clippers and the LA Galaxy of the MLS, and previously worked with the NHL LA Kings, who have a game right across. I work not only in the professional realm, but also high school and college as well. And again, for me, the main goal is to get people healthy, get their hearts healthy, and make sure that they can do the things that they want to do in a healthy way.
Thank you.
And I am Dr. Gabriella Della Piana. I go by Gabby. I am a maternal fetal medicine specialist, which means I do high-risk OB. I'm at Cedars-Sinai. Also, I've been at Cedars for 10 years because I also did my training there. So what MFM is you do 4 years of obstetrics and gynecology training and then 3 more years of fellowship to specialize in high-risk obstetrics. So the maternal part of my job is taking care of pregnant patients who are having complications, either due to having an underlying heart disease and then becoming pregnant and figuring out how to safely get them through a pregnancy or developing complications from pregnancy. The other aspect of that is that I deliver babies. So I'm actually on call at the hospital tonight and we'll deliver some babies tonight. And then the fetal part is that we do fetal diagnosis, which is mostly ultrasound. So if you stopped by our station, you saw a very minimal version of that of ultrasounding a non-pregnant uterus, but I ultrasound during pregnancy to see if there are any abnormalities or any complications with the fetus, such as the fetus growing too small or too big, to help make recommendations about management for the pregnancy. I'm also the associate program director for the OBGYN residency, and in July will be the program director. And so
I didn't know that. It's amazing.
Thank you. I think I'm allowed to announce that now.
That's exciting. Thank you. That's great. That's awesome. I'll share my story as well. Again, I'm Christina Harris. I'm our Chief of Health Equity, which means at Cedars-Sinai, which means I think about the care that we deliver within the 4 walls of our hospitals and our clinic systems to make sure that we are providing equitable care for everyone, regardless of race, ethnicity, language, ability status, and all the things that make us different that can sometimes impact how we receive our healthcare, our outcomes from our healthcare standpoint. I'm also a physician. I've been at Cedars for 2.5 years. And before that time, I was more active on the clinical side. I'm an internal medicine specialist, which means I take care of adults. I'm a generalist, so I'm a primary care doctor. And probably like Gabby, I've been in academics, so teaching medical students and teaching residents for most of my career. And then since I've been at Cedars, I'm much more in the hospital administration. So thinking about how hospitals run, how hospitals are organized, and how we deliver care. And it's been really, really amazing to use my medical skills and translate that into how hospitals and clinics function. If you had asked me 10 years ago if I'd be doing this, I'd say absolutely not. I think that is the power of medicine. There's so many different avenues your career can take. And to me, that means being at the age of 46 and having what feels like a little bit of a newer career is kind of cool because not everybody gets that opportunity. So thank you guys for letting me facilitate this. No need to clap. I'm not the star here. They're the stars. I want to know a little bit because I know, as you know, but you've been here for most of the day. You got middle schoolers, high schoolers. Tell us a little bit about you in middle school and high school. What were you thinking? How would you describe yourself? And how did how much of where you are now did you know at that point?
It took me quite some time to realize that medicine was the path for me. My dad was a public defense attorney, and so for a long time I said I was going to be a lawyer. And then I was like, oh, he does too much homework when he comes home. Little did I know that I was getting myself into a similarly busy profession. In high school, I did as many AP classes as I could because I knew that wherever my path was going to take me, I wanted it to be the ultimate version of that job. And I played a lot of sports, just like my colleagues up here. And ultimately thought I was going to go into orthopedic surgery because I liked athletic training. I was like, I want to work with a professional sports team. And then in the first 2 weeks of medical school got exposed to pregnancy and somebody who had a C-section. And a C-section is a life-changing event. You will either be like, oh my gosh, this is for me, or this is not for me. And for me, it was like that pivotal moment that really pushed me towards women's health as my profession. So I'm not really answering your question, but in middle school and high school, just did as much as I could to make college easier. So if you can get some of those AP classes out of the way, it makes college more interesting because you're not taking as many of the like prerequisite requirements like history, or I actually didn't do any math in college because I did all my math in high school. And I really got to just focus on what I was interested in and let me explore more since I didn't know yet what I wanted to do with my life. And yeah.
What was your undergrad major?
Exercise physiology.
Okay, that's right.
I thought that's where I was going.
That's right. Mhm. Science.
I love that because I think that really does shine on the different paths that we all can take into medicine. And I think, and I hope that each person in here, middle school and up, is able to realize, as Dr. Harris said, that there's not one direct path. I'm maybe the opposite. I knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was 8 years old. And you don't see that too often, especially for little young Black boys, right? And I grew up here in Los Angeles, went to Windsor Hills Elementary School, if anybody knows where, Windsor Hills is, right? And for a lot of us in that school, resources weren't as prominent as a lot of other people, and we didn't have a lot of the tools. But I hated this woman, but my fourth grade teacher, man, I gave it all to her because she made us do this Black History Month project. And what we had to do was embody the person that we were assigned. And I was assigned Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. And he is touted as being the first person to perform open heart surgery. They give him the title as the first Black person to do it, but he was actually the first person, but we can talk about that later.
It's another panel.
Exactly. But for me, being an 8-year-old in fourth grade, I had this oversized white coat, this, cheap stethoscope, and had to talk to my fourth graders about Dr. Daniel Hale Williams and what it means to take care of the heart. And so I was 8 years old when I said, I want to take care of the heart when I grow up. And I think that really highlights the power of vision, right? And seeing something and being something at a young age and knowing that it's possible because you saw somebody else do it. But also knowing that path is laid out in front of you, for me, was then the igniter that I need to say, this is the direction I'm going to go. And so from 8 years old on, I tried to dive into medicine and science, which again is not the typical thing that I think young people do. Now, let's not get it twisted. I was very much still an 8-year-old in LA and doing all the things that 8-year-old boys do. And growing up, played all the sports, played basketball throughout high school, won a state championship or a CIF championship with my basketball team. But all the while, I knew what my main goal was to get into medicine. So I used basketball and some of the other extracurriculars as not only stepping stones, but also ways that I can build who I am as a person and build my package. Because a lot of us don't necessarily feel like we have the image or the resume necessarily that is able to match up with people in our same cohort or where we are or where we're trying to go. But if you make sure that your resume is built up of things that make you well-rounded and make you a standout individual, that puts you in a position to where you can do great things later on. So for me in elementary school and then going into high school, I did all the other things that I love to do and had fun. But at the end of the day, I knew what my main goal was. And then that took me to college. I went to an HBCU, Xavier University in Louisiana. And at that, we got some XU people in here. XU, there we go. You see, we out here, guys. We out here. And why I went to Xavier was not only because of their historic background of excellence, but they are still to this day considered the #1 institution, not just HBCUs, but all colleges in getting Black people into medical school, into veterinary school, into pharmacy school, into dental school, and all other health allied fields. And so again, that vision of what I wanted to be when I was young took me to the next step and then the next step. And when I went to Xavier, they showed out and stayed true to what their reputation was. And that then led me into medical school. I went to medical school in New York Medical College, and then ultimately came back to LA and did my internal medicine at USC. And then from USC, I stayed there and did my cardiology fellowship before coming over to Cedar. So for me, and that 8-year-old boy in middle school really was the beginning that allowed me to know kind of where my path was going to go. And no matter if I deviated, sometimes I always knew where the final destination was. And so I think that really helps me get into where I am today. And so that's who I was. And it's really helped me be where I am now.
That's a follow-up. Marie-Jay, can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
So I definitely know that Xavier produces physicians, like they do their thing. And I've met a lot of, 10th, 11th graders and seniors who are like thinking about college and trying to weigh what made Xavier, what makes them produce so many doctors and helps you get through it. What did that look like? What were the supports?
I think for Xavier, and I can only speak for them, the dedication that they take to holding that reputation has really facilitated their ability to do that for the students. From the minute we get on campus as freshmen, we all have to declare our majors. I was a biology major and minored in chemistry, mainly because, again, that's what you did going into medicine for those who knew that medicine is the thing that I want to do up front. With that being said, you do not have to go into biology or chemistry or the sciences as majors to get into medicine. There are people who are history majors, who are history pre-med or language majors, language pre-med. So just so you guys know, you do not have to go into medicine. And honestly, if you go in with a different major, again, you may be more well-rounded than individuals who were strictly only science. But for me, Xavier really focused on the path of getting you into medical school. So as freshmen, they literally lay out a blueprint for us and what we need to accomplish each quarter, each semester, so that by the end of the first year, you know everything that you are supposed to do. You've already started doing research. You started affiliating yourself with certain mentors and hitting all the targets so that you don't feel lost. And Xavier is, as I said, an HBCU, is but one of the smaller HBCUs. And so because of that, they really had good community, but also you didn't feel like you were one of 300, one of 400 in a class, right? And so one of the knocks for us as students is we feel like we're just in like a big high school in a sense. And that's because you think about the big schools like USC, UCLA's, where again, there are 300, 500 people in a class. So there are pros and cons to all of that. And definitely the experience was different. But because Xavier was focused on this mission and most of the individuals that go there also focused on that same mission, each year as you're going through, you have a stepping stone and a checklist of what you're supposed to do. So you are never falling off from what you're supposed to do. And that way, at the end of it, you never miss a deadline unless you miss it on your own, right? Because again, they set it out for you. But you never miss what you're supposed to do. And that's why they have such a good track record.
Yeah. These supports really do matter. And just to follow up on something you said, I think one of my biggest regrets, if I think about like my education, and was the fact that I kind of thought I was going to go into medicine. And so I said, well, if I'm going to be pre-med, I might as well be a biology major, because then I can take all of the pre-med courses as part of my major. And I, as a result, missed out on a lot of other knowledge that, like, if I didn't realize at the time, but that I had medical school and the rest of my life to do science. I think if I could do it again, I would be a history major or an English major. And I do happen to read medical school applications for UCLA, and it is becoming more and more prevalent or common to have students who are coming in with a variety of degrees in the humanities, because it takes a lot to be a physician. And it's not just the science. It's how we think about people. It's how we communicate. It's our ability to read and process and consume. And so I think if I would do it over again, I would have done a non-science. But Christina, at the phase that I had and not having a ton of role models, I didn't know that. And no one ever told me that. And that's why I want to tell you that, because I do think it is very important. And I'm a terrible writer to this day. Like, I needed more writing courses. Less lab, more writing courses.
All right. So middle school, high school for me, if looking back on, very simple, obviously didn't know exactly what I wanted to. Kind of tell you my story, got hurt, and that's my exposure to athletic training. If it wasn't for that and me getting hurt and injured in athletics, I would have never really known about the profession of athletic training. So I was really blessed and fortunate there. But when I was young in middle school and high school, two things I can remember: love sports and I love people. I remember telling myself I do not want to sit in front of a computer all day and work. I do not want to work on cars or any type of, engineering or anything like that. I just knew I wanted to be around people. That's all I knew. But then obviously when I got exposed to athletic training, that was when, it truly triggered me that this is something I wanted to do. Now, fast forward a little bit. So that's the first nugget. I think it's just that passion of just finding out what you love to do. We always gravitate to the things we love. And I knew I love people and I love sports. When I got to college at West Virginia University and really got into the program, when I fell in love with athletic training, it's right with anatomy for me. Really understanding the human body, I thought it was fascinating and I just couldn't do it enough. The other thing too, now looking back on it, and I got to be honest with you, there's no way I knew this when I was in middle school and high school, but now looking back on it, it's a good reflection for me is I love to care for people. Just this natural knack that I always wanted to care for somebody. I could really feel that in college, kind of working in the training room, working with injured athletes. And then looking back, high school and middle school, I can remember that something, and if somebody had something going on, I wanted to help them. I think that's powerful. Caregiving takes a lot of energy, takes a lot of time caring for people. So you got to have the capacity to want to care for people. I think if you get in this profession and you don't want to care for people, you're going to have a tough time. So I think that's really, really important. So kind of caregiving was a gift I think that just been given to me, I've been blessed with. And obviously my passion in sports and passion with wanting to be around people is kind of how it all kind of glued together for me into the profession.
Yeah. And as we think about this idea of caring for people, again, in healthcare, there's so many different ways that we can do that. But I do think, we all come from different backgrounds and trainings. But as I think about the hospitals and clinics, like this idea of caring for people is the common thread. And you're right, there is a level of selflessness that comes from being able to show up and put other people kind of in front of your needs in that very moment. And that is, it can be a challenge, right? I think it is incredibly rewarding. I think when you have a grateful patient or, people who depend on us, that is a huge reward and payoff. But there's some other things that go into this idea of having to show up every day and serve people. All the people, even the ones that are nasty sometimes, like just me. We care for them too.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, I think if you're in this space, the biggest thing that I think you'll learn is something I think we all can see up here is you got to take care of yourself. Because the last thing we do is care for ourselves. I think we all can probably say that up here if you're in the caregiving business. And you learn quickly that if you don't stop and take care of yourself, you're not going to be a care for others. So that's something I had to learn the hard way a little bit. But that's a great point. Yeah,
it's not something that was, when we were kind of coming up, that was not something that was prioritized. And I'm proud of my profession to say that it is something that we are prioritizing now because we learned the hard way, that we don't get the outcomes we get when we don't care for our providers and our people first. Okay. So everybody is here because they're trying to learn and they want to get advice and they're staying till the bitter end. Thank you very much. So what advice, one piece of advice, would you give to our aspiring healthcare professionals or leaders? So any advice?
You got first.
What advice? I think I kind of alluded to it earlier. It's trying to, if at all possible, open yourself up to knowing what you want to do. And again, that's hard to do in the beginning. Dr. Gabby mentioned it, and sometimes you don't know that in the beginning, but in a way she kind of did, right? She knew she wanted to be in a certain type of profession. And whether that's being a lawyer, being an engineer, being a doctor, she knew that she was going to be in a type of field that was going to have her dealing with high stakes and high stakes individuals, because if you know yourself, then maybe that's the type of place you want to be. And so that was similar for me. And even if you don't know what that profession is exactly, having somewhat of an idea of where you want to go is important. So again, I think it was so important for me that I knew the exact profession, because it allowed my vision to be more tunneled and more focused. And as I said, everything comes with pros and cons, because that could be a bad thing in a sense, right? And sometimes people can be so fixated on one goal, and they miss other blessings and opportunities that come their way, right? So with that being said, it's kind of contradictory. Know what you want to do, but be open to other things. But also, we don't all know the answers, right? And so what I relied on were individuals and people and institutions and events like this, where you expose yourself to advice and other individuals with different perspectives to help guide you in those decisions that you're trying to make. Everyone in here, if there's one piece of advice that I think all of us would agree on, is listening to your parents, right?
Yes.
Your
My 13-year-old
parents
is walking out the door right now. Listen to your mother. She wanted to shout out. She didn't think she'd get it like that, but
Absolutely.
listen to your mother and your father.
She said one more time, listen to your parents. All right. And I know that's so cliche and whatnot. And it's a support system that you will always have. It's a support system that will love you no matter what you do, and you will do what you will do. So just keep that in mind. But they're also the first people that are going to keep it real with you, right? And we all have friends, we all have colleagues, we all have people that we date, and all these different things and exposures that you're going to have in life. But your parents are the only constant. And so I will for sure say that the support that I had from my parents, the motivation that I received from my parents, the guidance that I received from my parents was integral in what got me to where I am, even if I did not always listen to them. It was always there in the back of my head, and it should be in the back of yours as well. And if there's anything that we all should want to do, aside from being successful, is to make our parents proud. And I can only hope that I did that. So I hope that you guys all have that same goal.
Clap it up for that.
All right. I got two, Doc. So I'm just going to give two. I know you said one, but I think these are powerful. Well, three. Listen to your parents is number one. But no, so two things I think is really important that I see. Once you get into college and you really start getting into your profession, and once you get out of college and you start your profession, I always tell young, inspiring people in the medical field, do not run vertically to the top of your career. I want you to walk to your vertical profession in your career. Do not run. People always want to be at the top right away. And when you get up to the top, or wherever your North Star is of what you want to be in life, you want to make sure when you get there, you're sustainable and you're prepared. So take your time, grow horizontally, and learn, and let your path come to you. It will. I think so many times I get people that just want to get to their profession. I want to be, you look at these two doctors here, they're at the top of their game right now. They earn that and they walk to that. And so I really think walk your process, don't run your process. Really, really important. Number two, you have to earn it. And I think this is important. I've been saying this in some of these different various DEI programs that I get the chance and opportunity to speak to. Especially as, young African Americans, young minorities in these professions, we need to earn everything we get. We need to be undeniable. Don't ask for nothing. Don't expect anything. There's doors we still got to break through. There's so much we have to still continue to do, but I can't tell you enough. When you get in that door, for you to be able to sustain in that door, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be competent, and you have to be the best in the world at what you do, the best on the planet, period, full stop. So make sure as you continue to grow, make sure you're competent, make sure you're earning it, and make yourself undeniable. Don't ask for anything, because you guys all can do it, and you guys can get there to the top. And when you get there in that mode, you'll be sustainable, and you'll be great, and you'll be elite, and you'll be the best on the planet. That's really, really important.
Yep. It's like the keynote, I am the world's best fill in the blank. Yeah? That's for us to decide.
I want to double down on what he just said, because it's very important to realize that when you get to wherever you are trying to go, unfortunately, a lot of times you're going to be the only person in that space that looks like you, right? So you are hopefully opening the doors for individuals behind you, right? So what he just said is so important, that you have to be prepared when you get to that spot, because where she is, where I am, where he is, if we showed up and we looked a mess, right? If we showed up and we did not do what we were supposed to do, it's not going to necessarily be that we just weren't prepared, right? That's not what they're going to say. They're going to say that she was not supposed to be there. And the first thing that they think about is because of our background and where we're from and what we look like. And so what he said is so important. And I want to make sure you guys emphasize that. You are not only representing yourself, your parents, your family, but you're representing the people that are behind you, just like we are representing the people that were before us, right? So definitely want to make sure you guys take that to head.
And Gabby, and just to say, like, as you're speaking, I could not agree more. And, you know, I think there's two sides to it. There's one aspect I hear and I'm like, that's a lot. That is heavy. That's a big responsibility. But I will also say it is that same big responsibility that drives me every day and is the reason I am here. Right. Not just physically here, like here in my profession and doing what I do. It's knowing that I am making a difference. And there is nothing more motivating than that, right? So with that burden comes an incredible strength that it's only that when you're doing it that you realize, like, this is what motivation looks like, right? Yeah.
And the last thing I'll add on to that is that once you get there, the work is not done. You have to keep digging in every day, working hard, striving to be your best, and continue. We talk about it's lifelong learning. Like, you keep figuring out how to be the best version of yourself in whatever field or specialty you've chosen. But it's worth it. Absolutely. My advice is find a community, because I did not have a community until I made it to medical school. I had a very different undergraduate experience than Dr. Marie-J. I went to University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and it's a large 20,000 student commuter school where I had classes with 500 people in them. And I'm the first in my family to go into medicine, and none of my friends from high school were going into medicine. And that's part of why I think I was adrift for so long. Like, I didn't know how to get there. I didn't really know what I needed to do. I knew that exercise physiology as a major would meet my pre-med requirements while I was still trying to figure things out if that's where I wanted to be. But you can build a lot of imposter syndrome when you're just kind of out there floating on your own, thinking you're the only one struggling. And then medical school, I was really fortunate that I went to UC San Francisco, and they just like kick you in the teeth with community. They're like, you're going to find your people, and you'll realize that you're not the only one who this is hard for. Having even just somebody who you can vent to, or share that stress, share those burdens with, talk about like what your respective backgrounds and family and upbringing were, and how you aren't alone. There may be points where you hit the pinnacle of your field where you are the only person who looks like you there, but on the road, there are a lot of us. And finding that community, strengthening that community, I think, is really important.
Absolutely. The benefit of being the moderator is I get to co-sign things. And Gabby, as you were speaking, I remembered, I think it was the keynote last year, if I'm not mistaken, where Dr. Dale talked about your squad and how your friends really are important. And as a parent, I remember he was like, I pick my kids' friends. And now that I have a 13 and 15-year-old, I know what that means. And I will say that, you know, mentors that look like us and have these titles and jobs are important, but do not underestimate the power of a peer mentor. I will say the person that I attribute so much of my success to was my best friend since the 6th grade, Janine Drake. And Janine came from a family that had college degrees, and she got mentoring, and I was keeping up. And I wanted to be just like Janine. And I tell her this all the time, because if it had not been for me trying to be like Janine, I probably wouldn't be where I am. And that tells me how important it is, the people that we surround ourselves with. And so as you think about your path in your career, you have to pause and think, who are the people that I'm surrounded with? And are we going in the right direction? Because this is hard. You will not do it by yourself. And you need people to role model, both in front of you, but alongside of you, right? And I know I sound like a parent right now, right? And my kids are like, gosh. But I cannot tell you the importance of that. And then one piece of advice that I would have, and when I come to these things, I realize how amazing young people are now. They'll just come up and be like, what do you do? Why do you do what you do? And that's amazing. When I was in your shoes, I did not have that confidence to go up to people and say, hi, tell me about your job. Tell me what you do. What do you like about what you do? And exposure is the key. do not feel ashamed or like I don't want to bother people. If you are in front of someone who is doing something that you might want to do, your job is to learn, and expose yourself. Because maybe they'll say something, you'll say like, oh, that's cool. I never thought of that. Or maybe you'll say like, that's trash. Like, I'm not doing that. But you don't know that if you don't have those conversations. And it can be very hard when you're in middle school or high school to just walk up to someone. But if they're in your environment and your surrounding, they're there because they want to, like today, they're there because we want to give back and we want to support. So like, get out of your own head and just walk up to them and ask a question. Everybody wants to talk about themselves, right? No one will turn down an opportunity to tell you about themselves. So remember that, because your job is just to listen to people and take things in and be like, yep, that sounds good. Oh, nope, not doing that, right? Okay. So we have about 10 minutes. I'm going to ask one more question of the panel, and then maybe we'll open it up to some questions from the audience. And I want to talk a little bit about challenges. Our roads are not always straight ahead. Oftentimes they take left turns and right turns. Are there any challenges that you might have overcome in your process? And can you speak a little bit to that? And then everybody start thinking of your own questions, because we'll spend the last 7 minutes doing questions.
Probably one of the biggest challenges, obviously a lot of different things happen in my life, but the biggest thing for me is probably learning how to be vulnerable, learning to own mistakes. I think as you continue to grow, you realize, adversity and mistakes that happen in your life are some of the best moments of growth. So being vulnerable and owning, I think in medicine, a lot of times, we say, especially in NFL and in my profession, that we have to bat 1,000. We have 17 games a year. We have to win. It's just so much pressure, that a lot of times you just don't want to make that mistake. And I think being vulnerable and owning up to mistakes and saying that I'm wrong, I need to get better, has probably been one of the biggest just challenges, but also growth moments for me. But I think that's something I had to kind of grow into.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard.
I think for me, probably the biggest challenge is what I think most people experience, and it's with just the learning part of it and trying to figure out how you learn, right? You don't get to through 14 plus years of school and training, without having some bumps in the road with tests and with different type of modules and all these different things that we have to do as we're learning, right? But it's high school. As I said, we did 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of internal medicine, 3 years of cardiology, and
Don't scare him. Don't scare him.
It's not to scare you, because hopefully you guys see that it's very possible, right? And again, I stated that I am from where you guys are from. I'm assuming most of you guys are from LA, right? I'm from where you're from, and I'm hopefully where you're trying to be, and it's very possible. And I hope you guys don't think I look old, because I'm not, right? So it goes by quickly. And the biggest thing I always like to tell you is that time is going to go by anyway, right? That 14 years is going to pass anyway. So what are you guys going to be doing with that time? You can walk out of it and be, somewhere where you find yourself successful, and be productive at that time. So for me, I think the biggest challenge was as I'm going through that path and I'm doing my learning, if I have a bad score or I don't do as well as I want to do, or as you're having your community and your peers and you find those individuals that you use as your not only your crush, but your motivation. At the end of the day, we also have egos, right? So sometimes someone does better than you that you were studying with. Sometimes someone went to sleep and they didn't stay up all night to study, and you did, and they still did better than you, right? So there are things like that that are discouraging, and can certainly set you back and make you ask yourself, is this for me? And so it was learning, okay, I just need to do this differently, or I need to be vulnerable and go ask that friend, how did you do that? How did you study? How did you get this problem? And by doing that, I think that's what ultimately allowed me to get to where I am and be successful.
And we're going to listen to you, but if anyone has a question, raise their hand, and so we can get the Q&A started after. Go ahead.
Do you want to
No,
first?
go ahead.
Okay. Definitely one of my biggest challenges, which is something I still am working on, is having the courage to step out of my comfort zone and being like you all were so amazing, coming up to the stations, asking questions.
It's amazing, right?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And so much of getting to where we are requires networking so that you can find mentors and find sponsors and find people who will help you get to where you need to be. And it's taken a very long time for me to be able to do that better. I'm very introverted and still not great at it, but trying constantly.
I feel you on that. Okay, question.
So with your profession, as well as other professions that require a lot of investment in time and money and sacrifice, you often hear that people go through the process, end up where they are, and they're dissatisfied. So what are the right reasons to pursue this profession, and what are some of the wrong reasons to pursue this profession?
The question, it was right and wrong reasons to go into the profession.
Right and wrong reasons to go into speaking for medicine. I think honestly that depends on you. I don't think that there's a right or wrong. Oftentimes you will hear, don't go into medicine for money. I don't agree with that. There are some people that go into medicine for money. I will always say that medicine is the one career that we have where supposedly we're not supposed to want to make money and be successful. Name me one other career where that's the case, right? So we work hard and we get to where we are so that we can be financially stable and provide for not only our families, but, you know, for a lot of people, this is why there's such a huge wealth gap in the Black community, is that we do get successful, but then that doesn't all stay with us, right? We end up taking care of the rest of our family. And so I think that if someone wants to go into medicine for money, that is fine. However, understand that you're going into medicine, right? So you still need to be very apt at what you're doing, very knowledgeable, and be a good physician so that you can take care of people, because that is the job, right? So right reasons to go into it are whatever your reasons are, as long as when you get there, you're being successful and you're doing what's right and you're being altruistic and understanding that you're caring for individuals. But it should not be wrong to be paid to care for individuals. So wrong reasons would be that you feel like you want to be in an elite status, right? Or that you think that you are over people and the individuals that you work with. I think medicine is not the right place for you if you go into it with that attitude, because although you can be a very good physician and care for that patient, I think we all see people who, and again, this isn't medicine alone, but any profession, when power and authority is kind of your desire, and that's why you're in a position, you're going to end up doing wrong by a lot of people, including patients in general. So I like to say, again, I don't think there are many right or wrong reasons, but you know, hopefully that gives some context.
Can you tell me what a typical day at work looks like for you?
Oh, typical day at work. In sports medicine specifically? Okay.
Oh, yep. I get to wake up and smack Matthew Stafford around every morning. That's what I get to do. No, yeah. So thing about my job is in season, it's 7 days a week. I travel with the team. We have home games. So very demanding. From that perspective for the first, call it the 6 months of the season from September on. But every day I wake up, I get up about 5 o'clock. We're really early starters. But basically our number one job when we get in the day is kind of evaluate what do we got from an injury perspective. Every week, you can, as you see in the NFL, there's so many guys to get hurt. We have to go week to week to see really what's our evaluation of who's going to be able to play or not, and what can we do to get that player back. So we're constantly creating that environment to get these guys back. We're managing, we're covering practice. We're, looking at scheduling a practice. I do a lot of travel management. So there's a lot of admin stuff, but mainly day in and day out, we're working with our athletes 3 to 4 times a day of constant care to make sure week to week we can get these guys back. Some of our injuries are long term. So obviously if some injuries are 4 to 6 weeks, we'll try to get them back in that time. But get into work and kind of just caring for the athlete day in and day out. On game day, on Sundays, get there quite early, 1 o'clock game. We're there at the stadium. Well, actually stayed at night at the hotel the night before the game with the players just to make sure everything's okay, make sure all these suckers are getting in bed and not hanging out all night. And then once we get up in the morning, 9 o'clock, I'm usually at the stadium. We're starting to prep the guys and get the guys ready to play. So we're there at 9 o'clock for a 1 o'clock game. Game's over at 4 o'clock. We're there till about 5:36 after the game. So you can imagine on Sunday, just all that stuff. In game, when you see that guy run out on the field when somebody goes down, that's me running out there. We're assessing, we're making sure obviously we're managing in-game care. Any emergencies happen, if we have to do any type of immediate emergency care and triage and transport to wonderful Cedars-Sinai, or just your basic management of in-game injuries and watching and monitoring the games on game day. So that's a quick cliff notes of what I do.
How
day in,
many
day out.
trainers does a team like the Rams have?
Yep. So right now on staff, we have 6 athletic trainers, 2 of them are physical therapists and athletic trainers, just in the sports medicine department. 4 strength coaches, 2 dietitians. We got somebody within sports science. So if you like technology and sports science, it's a really cool profession. Take a look at that. That's kind of the staff.
Awesome. Thank you. You just quadrupled my knowledge on this. Thank you very much.
Got it.
Any final questions? I think we have, I saw the yellow sweatshirt first.
Hello? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Olu.
Okay, yeah.
And my question is actually specifically for Mr. Scott. So I actually really resonate with your background. So I was also a student athlete. I played basketball in Nebraska, and your story really resonates with mine. Although I wasn't injured, my time when I was done playing basketball, it hurt me as well, as I'm sure your injury did. And I guess my question for you, because I also have a background in working with student athletes and life transitions and adversities. My question for you is, when you entered a time where you couldn't lean on your athletic ability to do the talking for you, how did you lean on your non-athletic abilities to get to where you are today?
I wasn't that good of an athlete, so I didn't have to lean on that too much. No.
Play one on TV.
Now, you know, that's a great question. I would say sports helped me so much into what I leaned in today with my profession. So obviously, passion for sports, big deal when I had to kind of transfer out of sports and go into sports medicine. But I would say that the transfer was a little bit easier because today, what I do today, I think it's doing stuff with people you care about, something bigger than yourself. That's team, right? That's sports. And that's what I get to do every single day. I work with a team of people, a team of experts, that we create the best environment on the planet to provide for our athletes and our patients. And I learned that in sports. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the transfer for me from leaning to athletics into the field of medicine was a really easy transfer. And I'm pretty sure in any type of medicine, there's expertise, knowledge in various fields, and you're working together where you might have to transfer care and triage, that we're having that team approach to take care of a person. It's very team-like and very sports-like. So I would say it was a pretty smooth transfer for me. I hope that helps.
And our,
It's a great
our
question.
last question right here. Thank you very much.
Do you have any regrets in your journey to becoming what you are today?
I mean, ultimately where I am, no, I don't have any regrets. I love my job. I love my 2 jobs because my 2 jobs are the academic job of working with residents and helping to encourage the next generations of physicians and helping them to be the best OBGYNs they can be. And I love maternal fetal medicine, but like along the path, and I don't mind my path either because like I still love exercise. I still love sports. And if I ever get any time or money to do so, that I'm going to make exercise in pregnancy my niche. But what I wish I would have done differently is the networking sooner, finding my community sooner, because then it just wouldn't have been as painful.
Great.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I definitely don't regret where I am right now. But along the way, I think the better way I would say it would be the sacrifices, you know, that we had to take to get to where we are. And again, I don't regret them, but they still hurt in a sense. You know, again, being in training during your 20s and your early 30s, you miss you miss out on a lot of the fun things that your other friends are doing. You know, and so when you look back at that, there is a lot of like sadness or you know, that FOMO that you have when you didn't get to do some of those things. But then again, as I said, that time passes anyway. And where you are or where I am right now, and some of those same friends that were getting to do some of those more fun things, they're not, unfortunately, some of them are not where they would want to be at that time. So you look at it as a sacrifice or as regret at that moment, but ultimately it might not be the case that's the same. That's the parent in me talking now, right? 'Cause that's what a parent is going to tell you.
Okay,
But
Dad.
again, at the end of the day, your parents are usually right, guys. I got to tell you, I'm sorry.
I love,
That is
that's
true.
probably a good place to end. Let me tell say it again. I think we have, Andrew has a request for one last, promise, this is the last one.
Being around like superstars, like this is for you.
It's real hard to hear.
Being
It's
around
well-
like superstars, like even the ones that came and left the Rams, like Odell Beckham and Cooper Kupp, how would you say like they acted before games and in practices?
Okay, so that's a great question. Thanks for coming up. I'm proud of you on that. Yeah, give it up for him. He asked about just hanging around superstars like Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham and all those guys. So it's a blessing to be around these people. Elite athletes teach you so much. Aaron Donald's probably my favorite player of all time. Love me some Aaron Donald. But one thing he did teach me being around him every day is, and I think it's a good nugget for all of us, is when you look at the best people in the world, you look at success, they're consistent. Aaron Donald was so consistent with his approach and his daily rhythm. Everything he did, he attacked 100 miles per hour, and he was in a very consistent regimen every single day. And I think in class, I think in your profession, I think in anything, wherever you see success, you'll see consistency. And when you look at the best on the planet in terms of athletes, most of them are very consistent at what they're doing, and they do it every day, every second with all their might. And I think that's a great nugget that these elite athletes teach us. Cooper Kupp's the same way, even though he's not a Ram no more. Darn it.
Well, I want to say thank you for everyone for sticking around to the end of the conference. I want to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you for our panelists for taking time out of their busy schedules. We really appreciate it.